All right, guys. If you now would be the time to maybe start taking notes if you haven't been taking notes. Obviously, I think I told you I wasn't going to test you over yeah, the terrorism stuff. Sorry, I'm flustered. Okay, so, hey, being that it's 9/11, the 19th anniversary, now, I have some students that have me back-to-back hours, so I apologize for kind of repeating myself here. One thing, I kind of feel responsible as your social studies teacher to kind of talk about 9/11. I'll try and change it up a little bit, but from last hour, but they call it Patriots Day, okay? Or, no, it's Patriot Day, okay? Because Patriots Day was April 11th, is April 11th from the Revolutionary War, 1775. And then they started calling this Patriot Day, and I was confused, but now 9/11 is Patriot Day. And so it's something we should never forget. So I gave you guys an assignment. Those of you that have me for both classes, pick one of the classes and you can get your first assignment in that. I'd probably recommend doing it, turning it in government. Okay? Okay. Basically, guys, I put up a video. Did any guys see this morning at home? You didn't see the assignment?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you should do is get on campus.
Okay, but I didn't have any assignments. Like,
I didn't see it.
I already knew what
Oh, I
was
did
going
see it. I remember. It was like something 9/11.
Yeah, about 9/11.
It's a documentary.
It's a
and
documentary.
You have to write a paragraph about.
You have to write a couple paragraphs. Okay? Now, this is easy. Now, the video itself is not easy. Are you the one that's squeamish?
She's cried a lot.
I cried.
Oh,
Oh,
you-
yeah, you're definitely.
Yeah.
The one I watched
90
Mr. Long and I cried so much.
Yeah, it might be the same one. 9/11 in Memoriam by HBO. That follows Mayor Giuliani around New York City.
I don't remember which movie.
Okay.
We watched one in there. It was like a document.
It's an hour long. It is graphic. It is hard to watch. I've seen it, I don't know, 30 times more, maybe, more than that. Every time I cry. I can't help it. And when I do this on normal, days when, if we were here full time, I'd show it in class. And I'd warn you, and I'd say, if you don't feel comfortable watching, you can go into the library, okay? And I pass out Kleenex, because 90% of you will cry, okay? It is hard to watch, but I really do feel it's important that we remember, okay? The threat of attack against the United States is alive and well, guys. 9/11, the date, historically has a lot of purpose for Muslims. Okay, it goes way back in history. There was a major battle back during the Crusades, and I think it was a major defeat for Muslims. So it was really a signal against the West when they attacked us on 9/11. Okay, now I took you guys up through that, yesterday, and I know some of you didn't see it. I am working on a screencast. I got through 15 minutes of it, and this stupid thing said 15 minutes was the max. And I think I was talking for 25. So I'll have to break that into two parts. So yes, I'm very frustrated with my technology right now, but that's okay. So I will post something if you want to see what happened after the Gulf War that I got up to the first day. Some of you saw it live yesterday, right? So a few of you may want to watch the second part, okay? But guys, that morning was incredible, and so part of the assignment is to talk to one of your parents about their situation on that morning, because it's one of those things like, the older generation talks about the day Kennedy was shot and what they were doing when they heard about it. There were certain moments in my life, like when the the Challenger, the space shuttle, blew up after takeoff. I was homesick that day. I remember the day when Ronald Reagan was shot, okay? What I was doing. And here I was at Bishop Carroll teaching, second hour, and I was out, they had portable classrooms where the AC is now, where the social studies department was out there, okay? It was me and Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Finkeldye, Mr. Kenton, who some of you know, and Mrs. Berry, who's been a substitute here the last couple of years. You might know Miss Berry, little short lady, kind of mean. Yeah. I student taught for her. We were all on the portables. Kenton and Barry had the nice one. Me and the other three guys, we were in the crappy one. But we had our own thermostat. We had windows, no intercom, which was the best. Okay. But Blake Creer was my student that came in second hour and told me. He said, Mr. Ebright, and I never heard it called the World Trade Center. It was Twin Towers, in New York. So I had a TV with rabbit ears and turned on the TV, and I think by that time the second plane had hit, and guys, I mean, we couldn't pull ourselves away from the TV. I mean, that's all we did. New class would come in, and we'd watch the news. It was chaos. Nobody knew what was going on. Every plane that was in the air all over the country had to be grounded to the closest airport. So the stories you get from your mom or dad, they might have been, flying that day. They might have been working somewhere at the airport, at the Air Force Base. I mean, so, people being called up. I mean, are we at war? What is going on? And then just the fear of thinking that tens of thousands of Americans were going to die, especially when those towers started falling. How many people were in those buildings? We know today, obviously, that a lot of those people were able to get out, the ones below where the planes hit. Okay, but the video, guys, goes in. It gathered. This is the most documented event in human history because people have camera phones, and people would be able to video this. And so they gathered New Yorkers, all their videos, and they used them in this documentary. And so you see different angles and different people, and they put the names of the people that filmed it. And you can hear them in the background talking and screaming and crying, and then the towers with people in the streets. You can see the smoke coming down the streets. It's horrifying, and we should not forget. There have been many attempts since 9/11 on us. I mean, you guys know about the Boston Marathon bombing, right? There have been many that have been thwarted by Homeland Security, the CIA, the FBI. And one of the things about that, guys, is if the CIA and the FBI would have been working together that, in the months leading up to 9/11, sharing information, because the CIA deals with things overseas, the FBI at home. And if they would have been talking about some of the same people that were on terrorist watch lists, knowing that, hey, this guy's in the country, okay, and he's a bad person. If the CIA would have shared that with the FBI, then they might have been tracking them. Okay, but they didn't. There was a wall of separation to these. This is why we have the Department of Homeland Security. The CIA and the FBI now report to the head of Homeland Security. Okay, this is why we have the TSA at the airports now, the Transportation Security Administration. Any of you guys fly? Okay, you know what that's all about. Okay, we used to have private security. Now you want to talk about growing the size of the federal government, all those people that work for TSA all over the country are federal employees, okay? So, I mean, just the repercussions of this, not to mention the war, and then the war in Iraq, and so forth. But guys, good news is that Al-Qaeda's been decimated. We got bin Laden, and then, we got al-Baghdadi of ISIS, okay? Terrorists know if their head pops up somewhere, we're watching, we're listening. Okay? The Bush doctrine, George W. Bush, his doctrine was you're either with us or you're against us when it comes to terrorism. You either fight terrorism or you support terrorism. Okay, so countries around the world work together to thwart these attacks. If we get information about something that's going down in Germany or Britain, we share that information with them. They share information with us. We coordinate together. Okay? So there's no doubt, guys, there are terror cells, what you would refer to as sleeper cells, in the United States right now as we speak, waiting for orders. Okay? Today is 9/11. So at U.S. embassies all over the world, they're on high alert. Okay, Benghazi, I mentioned that the other day, Benghazi in Libya, the attack there where the ambassador was killed, was on 9/11. Okay, 2007, I believe. No, not 2007. It would have been like 2015. Okay. So the danger is still there, but our vigilance over time tends to diminish. Okay, so that video is something that I feel is appropriate for somebody your age to understand the truth about what happened. Okay, and then I think over the last 2 days, I've given you a lot of information about what led to the attacks. Okay, Flight 93 is something I like to talk about, and that was the plane that crashed in Shanksville. Okay, and that was the last plane. So the people that were on Flight 93 were getting cell phone calls from their loved ones, telling them that planes have been hijacked, and they're like, "Well, our plane's been hijacked too." And they said, but they're flying them into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. And so the people on the plane knew what their final destination was to be crashed into a building or a target. And so they tried to take it back. And there's actual audio recording of that, of people talking to their loved ones on Flight 93. And they made a good movie out of it. It's United Flight 93. And Todd Beamer and other men and women at the back of that plane talking about taking the plane back from the terrorists. Okay? And we don't know exactly what happened, but the plane did not reach the White House or the U.S. Capitol, which is thought to be one of the two targets. Okay? So those people are heroes, and they saved a lot of people on the ground. Not to mention, maybe, the U.S. Capitol or the White House. So today the president is in Shanksville. Former Vice President Biden, we call him Candidate Biden, he's going there as well, and then heading up to New York. Vice President Pence is in New York today, all commemorating the anniversary here. So I'm glad I get the opportunity to talk to you guys a little bit about it, and teach you a little bit about why it happened. All right. So you can do the assignment if you like. Okay. You can just watch the video if you want. You don't have to write anything. It's optional. It won't. Remember this. I'll put it in the grade book. It'll be excused. It'll be 0 out of 0 if you don't do it. Okay. So you got a bunch of other crap to do. I understand. Okay. Good. All right. Nobody's come in lives and taking over my machine, so I'll be posting this later. Okay. All right. So let me do this. I'll blow this up.
Are you doing PowerPoints of this stuff, or are we taking notes?
Yeah, we're gonna do PowerPoints. Now I won't do any of the. What? What's the problem? I'm on PowerPoint. Oh, it's over here. It's full screen over here. What's that?
Looks like you might have 2 open on the bottom.
I got something else. Well, how do I correct that? Because I'm going to need to correct that. Okay, so let me do it here and see if it pops up over there. No, it pops up here. All right, let me do it over here. Pops up here.
Exit out and just do it again.
This is stupid. Oh, I know what I do. I know what I do. Well, how about this? Microsoft P, duplicate. Oh, you bad. Okay. All right, guys, technology. Okay. Okay, you got two maps here. This is Europe, night before World War I, okay? 1911, okay? Can you see this? Big, like, empires, yes? The Russian Empire, Germany's really big, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, okay? Serbia's big, Bulgaria, Romania, okay? You got a couple little ones down here, Albania, Montenegro, okay? And then after World War I, look at all these new lines. I don't know which is better. Is that better? That better? That better? Now, let's get some ambiance in here, huh? Ambiance. Okay? Been waiting to do that. Okay? All right, so who drew all these lines?
Britain, France, and U.S.
Okay, not the U.S., but to the victors
The Great
go the spoils. Okay? Now, do you remember the treaty that ended World War I? Treaty of Versailles. Okay? Treaty of Versailles. Now, did the United States join the Treaty of Versailles? We did not. Okay? We had a separate peace with Germany. All right? So this is Britain. This is France mainly. Those two. Okay? And they are going to carve up Europe. Okay? And the Middle East. Okay, so a lot of the countries, modern day Middle East countries, the borders of Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Iran, okay, were in part carved up by the Europeans, okay? Now, the fact is, you got new countries. You got Czechoslovakia. You got Austria, Hungary, okay? These countries, you got Poland here, okay? So Russia comes in, it goes back. Okay, Russia got out of the war, right, in 1917. Okay, we got in the war in 1917. Okay, so Russia pulls back, Poland's created. You get these, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, up along the Baltic Sea. Okay, and what happens here, guys, what I really want to point to is that you are putting people of different ethnicities, people of different religions, inside different borders. And what you're going to be doing, guys, is creating minorities. Whether it's ethnic minorities or religious minorities. Okay, when you draw these new borders, you're creating new problems. These are problems that we're still dealing with today. Now, I don't know if you watch the news or not, but in the 1990s, this is Yugoslavia here. Yugoslavia no longer exists. Okay? So if I turn on the lights, sorry. and come over here to this map. It doesn't want to go that way. And look at Southern Europe. Okay? Yugoslavia no longer exists. So if you look at a map and it says Yugoslavia on it, find a different map. Okay? It's from 1990. Okay? Because around 91, when the Soviet Union collapsed, all of Yugoslavia broke up. And so you get Serbia, Macedonia, here's Serbia, Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Croatia. Not that was. I think Yugoslavia doesn't have Greece there. Okay. So, and Greece is to the south. Okay, they're independent of that. Okay, so in the 1990s, this is around 1995. Okay, there was a war in Serbia. Okay, this green one right here. And in the southern part of Serbia is a place called Kosovo. It's like Kansas is to the United States. Kosovo is part of Serbia. Okay? Where there's a lot of ethnic Muslims. Okay? Bunch of Muslims living in Kosovo. The Serbs, okay, of Serbia were mostly Christian, the Christian majority. And they didn't like the Muslims. So a guy named Slobodan Milosevic, he's a war criminal, okay? He started to ethnically cleanse the Muslims in Kosovo. Now, ethnic cleansing is a lot like genocide. In fact, it is. So, what you do is you separate the men. This is 1995, guys. Separate the men and women. You kill the men. You rape the women. The women have your ethnicity. They have your child. You're starting to cleanse the ethnicity from your country. Their ethnicity. Okay? We're talking about mass graves in Europe in 1995. Now, the United States got involved. We didn't send troops, but we used our Air Force and the Navy from the air. Okay? And we tried to diminish Slobodan Milosevic's ability to make war. So we're taking out his tanks, we're taking out his military, that sort of thing. Okay? It's a great movie on this. It's called Behind Enemy Lines. You guys know who Owen Wilson is? Owen Wilson? Kind of got the crooked nose guy, blonde. He's funny, yeah. But in this movie, he plays, and this is kind of based on a true story. He plays a pilot of an F-16, and his job is to fly over Kosovo and take pictures of the mass graves. Okay, so there's proof. He gets shot down. In real life, one of our American pilots, his name was Grady, O'Grady or Grady, okay? He got shot down, and they're hunting him through the mountains and hills and forests of Kosovo, okay? He eventually escaped. It's a great story. I mean, he's like this cool guy, you know? And so anyhow, we stopped Milosevic, okay? But guys, the survivors of the ethnic cleansing, they're not going to forget what the Serbs did to them. Do you understand? They want revenge. So we sent in UN peacekeepers to stop them from killing each other. Okay? This week, President Trump announced that they have, it's maybe been a long enough time where they can normalize relations between the two groups. Okay? That would be pretty cool, because we've had peacekeepers there for more than 20 years. Okay? So, at the same time, in Africa, there's an ethnic cleansing going on there in a place called Rwanda. Can somebody point out Rwanda on here for me? I'm trying to find it. You got it? No, that should, I mean, that could be it. It's Cameroon. How do you spell Rwanda? Rwanda, Africa. Images, maps. Zooming out. Tangi. Rwanda. Where's Burundi? You see Burundi? Uganda. Okay, hang on. We're up here by Tanzania. Uganda. Am I even on the continent of Africa?
That's more
What the
here,
hell?
so it's more.
No, yeah, it's south of Kenya.
So, say it
South of
again.
Kenya. Rwanda, right there. Okay? Right there, okay? There were two groups, two tribes. The Hutus and the Tutsis. Any guys ever seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? Oh, come on. The two tribes, the Hutus and the Tutsis, okay? The Tutsis were massacring the Hutus with machetes. Guys, listen, close to 1 million. Close to 1 million people butchered. Did the U.S. send the Air Force in there? Did they send in troops there to Rwanda? Okay. No. There's no national security interest there. You guys remember World War I started where? Where was the Archduke Franz Ferdinand killed? In Sarajevo, right? Which is in southern Europe, okay? Right where this ethnic cleansing is taking place in 1995. So that was the powder keg. Remember the powder keg from World War I? That was the assassination, was the powder keg. It started the war, okay? So we had a vested interest in Europe not being drawn into a war, having a big war, so we sent the Air Force in. But here, there's no national security threat to the United States. So we don't help. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but coming out of World War II, the United States is a force for good. We are trying to spread freedom, democracy, stop the spread of communism. And usually we intervene in situations like this. But after Vietnam, guys, the American people are very reluctant about using the American forces to go all over the place and be the policeman of the world. Sticking our nose in other people's business, which is exactly what we've been doing since World War II. We are the force of good. Now, sometimes we do bad. Okay? But who else is going to stop something like this from taking place? You going to wait for the Chinese to do that? You going to wait for the Russians to do that? Is Brazil going to somehow step up and kind of help, be the arbiter of good? Who's going to do that? See, guys, that falls on us. We're the wealthiest country in the world. We're the most powerful country in the world. It's the New World Order. Okay? Now that we've been in Afghanistan for 19 years, people are tired of our troops being sent over there. We went to Iraq and that became very unpopular. Helped Obama win the presidency when he said, I'm going to bring them home. And what is Trump doing? We are close to removing all troops from Afghanistan. I hope what happened in Vietnam doesn't happen in Afghanistan or Iraq. Because when we left Iraq, remember, the ISIS took over, started trying to take over. And they were worse. So, it may come off as a racial thing that we don't give a crap about what happens in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay? But it's a national security thing. And a reluctance on the part of the American people to get involved in things like this. Now, the United Nations eventually got involved. And that's, if you ever watched the movie Hotel Rwanda, which is incredible, okay, you get to see it. So, what happened at the end of World War I is still impacting us today. Okay? That's the relevance I'm trying to get to you. Okay? So as we go through these things, okay, through this history, it becomes relevant. Okay? And therefore, interesting. Okay? Now, I'm going to do a little bit on World War I. Now, I'm going to dig into my college notes. Not that one. American military history. Civil War. All right, yeah. Just kind of, kind of recap some of the things with you, okay? The war starts in August of 1914, okay? Remember the causes, right? And I think I mentioned this the other day. Militarism, nationalism, imperialism, but not communism. Not socialism, the other isms. Okay? Reasons for the war. So when we look at Europe, what's the most powerful nation in the world in 1914? Or who has the biggest empire in the world in 1914? Great Britain. Those limeys, as the Irish like to call them, controlled 1/4 of the Earth's surface at one point. You know the British controlled India, right? The British controlled Australia. They controlled much of the New World for a while until we kicked their butts out. They controlled parts of Africa. A lot of people in Africa speak English, just like we do. People in Australia speak English. People in India, a lot of them know how to speak English. It's the British Empire. Now, with industrialization, guys, by the 20th century, Germany started to become more powerful. Started to build a stronger navy. Okay? Unification of Germany happened in 1870. Unification of Italy, 1870. Okay? And so you start to get nationalism, people rallying around their flags. We are Germans. We are Italians. We are the Brits. Okay? Yeah? Nationalism. Proud of their country, proud of their heritage. Okay? And the British really didn't like the fact that the Germans were late to the game. So if you look at Africa, it is divided up by the French, the British, the Dutch, the Italians. Germany doesn't have any colonies in Africa. They're late to the game. Now they want to get in on the game. And the British don't like that. And the French don't like that. The Germans and the French, the Prussians, you remember something called the Franco-Prussian War? Okay? The French don't like the Germans. And after that war, the French decided to assert their masculinity. So the French built the tallest structure on the continent of Europe. Called what? Thank you. The Eiffel Tower. Now, I didn't come up with this. Okay, I got this from my history professor in graduate school. Okay? This thing was built after the Franco-Prussian War. And the French wanted to show how strong they were. So they built a phallic symbol that was taller than any other symbol on the continent. I just used a vocabulary word there. Some of you guys know what a phallic symbol is, some of you don't. Should I explain? The Eiffel Tower is a sign of masculinity. It is an enormous penis. It's a phallic symbol. It's a sign of strength that they could build something so tall. Okay? Now the French have a special relationship with the Russians. Yes? I know. It's not a joke. I didn't make that up. Okay? The French get along with the Russians. The British and the French, after centuries of fighting each other, have finally reconciled their differences. Okay? So you got Germany, the Austria-Hungarian Empire, and the Italians, which will become the Central Powers. Okay? Now, the Italians, yeah, they always pick the wrong side. And then they switch. History repeats itself because in World War II, the Italians were with the Germans again, and then they switched to our side. Okay. We are the Allies. Okay? Now, I say we aren't in it for the first 3 years. Okay? Now, are we helping our British friends? Yes. Okay? Because that's what we do. The British help us, we help the British. We are best friends. To this day. Okay? One of the causes that doesn't get mentioned in a lot of like high school textbooks is this. Industrialization. Think about the time period, 1914. You got people moving off the farms, going into work in the factories, right? And so you've read about this, you've learned about this. You ever see Mary Poppins? Yay, I got one. Okay, where they have the smokestacks in London, you know, and it's all just, literally there's smog. The working conditions are horrible in the factories, the living conditions in the slums. And then you have women that are like, you know what, we're tired of this. We want a right to vote. We want to have a say. And so the women are starting to cause problems too. And the labor unions and the violence. Listen, we need to change the subject. How about a war? That'll change the subject. So a lot of these countries were more than willing to go to war, the leaders, because they knew it would divert attention from all these social problems they were having. It's called wag the dog theory. Okay? If there's a scandal at the White House, how do we divert attention from that? How about a nice little war? There's a really good movie, here I go again, called Wag the Dog. Okay? Where this president has a sex scandal. Imagine that. Okay? And so they literally create this whole fictitious war with Albania. Okay? And they do it in a Hollywood studio and pipe it through the news channels. It's very 1984-ish. Okay? Are you guys packing up? All right. Hey, I hope you have a good weekend. I'll post some notes. I'll do a new module and get some notes up for you. You guys will be at home on Monday. Hey, listen, if you are at home and you can't get on the live thing, somebody log in as me. I don't know. Ashley Moeller did it the other day. And it came up. Huh?
Yeah, what's your password?
I can't tell you that.
I feel like that's what Ashley got.
There's no way she got that.
How'd she log in and do them?
Not log in or just like join as me. I don't know. My name's on there.
You have to like invite them to the call. If you're not in, if you click like invite to call, then it gets you in the start zone.
Okay.
Okay, well now I know how to
So
do
you
it.
can invite me.
Yeah, I did that the other day when you sent out that email. I said I invited you and then it started.
Yes. And then it didn't record.
Yes, yes, that was it.